Good morning and welcome to this webinar brought to you by BIM Plus and Construction Management. This session is entitled How BAM is Using Information to Analyse Productivity and Team Behaviour. It's in association with IdeaGen Mail Manager. Our programme today: BAM is leveraging value from task management data sets and gaining valuable insights into leading and lagging trends on performance, which also highlight human behaviour not previously seen before. In this webinar, BAM will reveal how it's using analysis of the likes of safety checklists, permits to work and snagging monitoring to understand when its teams are at their most productive and how those teams are behaving. In the second half of the webinar, IdeaGen Mail Manager will focus on an often neglected part of information management, email management. Email is by far the most common project correspondence tool, but poor management can mean project information is lost and time is wasted searching for emails. There will be a Q&A session at the end. Let me introduce our speakers. Garry Fannon, FCIOB, is Digital Project Solutions Business Partner at BAM. I'll try and get my teeth in this morning. Jordan Nutter, MCIOB, Digital Project Solutions Lead at BAM. And George Emeny, Senior Client Manager at IdeaGen Mail Manager. I'm Justin Stanton, Editor of BIM Plus, and I'm your chair this morning. Some housekeeping as usual before we dive into the webinar. Please use the Q&A function, not the chat function. Please use the Q&A function to ask questions of the speakers. You can pose questions as yourself or anonymously. Our panelists will address your questions in the Q&A session at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to watch on demand via the original registration page tomorrow morning. There is 1 hour's CPD credit for those who complete this webinar live. CPD certificates will be issued tomorrow. You can only qualify for a CPD credit if you are watching via your own registration link. So that's enough of that. So Garry and Jordan, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if you can open your camera and mic and share your screen.
Okay, good morning. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Garry, we're getting the 2/3, 1/3 split, so we can see your next slide at the same time as...
How's that?
Bear with a second. We're still getting that rather than the simple full screen.
Is that the same, Justin?
Yeah, that's still the same. That's still the same. Perhaps.
We'll try again. Bear with us.
Yeah. Yep. We have the technology.
We do.
Nearly. We're just seeing the PowerPoint. That's it. Yep, there we go.
Great, apologies for that.
That's right, no worries.
Technical hitch there. Right, so we'd like to talk to you today about some insights, trends into human behaviour we've started to see through our data sets. Quick introduction. My name is Garry Fannon. As Justin said, Digital Project Solutions Partner for BAM Construction.
My name is Jordan Nutter, Digital Project Solutions Lead for our Northern business within BAM.
So today we'd like to talk to you a bit of an overview about BAM UK and about our team, our Digital Project Solutions team. And we're going to talk about why we have a whole life cycle approach to information management, how we mobilise and provision continuity in our common data environments and task management platforms, and then some insights that we've seen through our data sets. So a little bit about BAM UK and I. So BAM, we're on a mission to make possible. Restless in our pursuit of better, We think beyond the build and focus on bigger impact, a sustainable tomorrow. Because we don't decide if what we do is a success or not, the people who live, work, and rely on do it. By uniting our specialist expertise, we explore every possibility and overcome any challenge with ingenuity and determination. But we don't just do it alone. We partner with clients who share our vision and are excited about its potential. Possibility is endless. Together, it's ours to make. BAM making possible. So a little bit about our team and Digital Project Solutions team. We've set up a new structure within BAM, and I want to share our purpose and our why, really. So we know that the landscape has changed, that digital is not a nice to have anymore. It's now a mandated thing. We've seen changes in government. We've seen contract-based deliverables. We've seen advances in digital and in data, and that clearly needs to be a differentiator for main contractors and global trends. So we have a purpose, and that is to deliver a mature digital offering to meet our customer and business requirements. Digital Project Solutions are a trusted contributor to business success. We deliver on our UK and I businesses' ambitions through the use of digital tools, advancing technologies, information management, and data analytics. We've got some goals for 2025, which is a fit-for-purpose function, maximising our collective strengths, improving our skills by using data, developing our digital toolkits, improve digital capabilities, not just for us, but the whole of the business, and hopefully become a leader within our industry. The way that the team is set up is in sort of four columns, if you like, or four purposes. On the left here, business partnering. Myself and Jordan sit within that team, and our job is to make sure that we are delivering to those contractual obligations on each of our projects. We have centres of excellence, so COEs. We have an information management and data analytics team, and their role is to set up and provision all of our platforms on all of our projects, delivering consistency. We have a centre of excellence, which is project delivery and digital engineering, so a team solely dedicated to producing 3D models, 4D simulations, planning and scheduling, quantity takeoff, BIM for sustainability, BIM for FN. So a complete dedicated team focusing on that centre of excellence. And last but not least is our centre of excellence for innovation and advancing technology. Clearly, as a business, we need to look at what's next. So we have a dedicated representative in the team who's solely looking at new innovation and how we can look to pilot and leverage future value from it.
Okay, so why BAM have a whole life cycle approach to information management? Okay, so the aim of this is so we can have structured data on our projects. The key to this is receiving information requirements from our clients. Everything we do on projects needs to make sure that we are achieving our clients' aims and goals on the project. That then helps us to structure our information requirements, make sure that we understand our clients' requirements, and we can then pass those responsibilities through to our design teams and our supply chain, making sure that everyone's delivering consistent information on projects. This goes through to our design phase, making sure that when we're going through stage 3 and 4 design, that as well as actually designing the project, we're delivering the information requirements that our clients ultimately require to run the facility when BAM have completed construction. As we go into the construction phase of the project, we're collating a lot of important information about the project. This relates to things like RFIs, submittals, checklists for our installations on site. It's about making sure that we capture the structured data for the full installation of the project. As we go through to the handover, making sure that we are delivering those contractual deliverables to our client. So that may be in the form of, say, COBE data or more bespoke asset data requirements on projects. It's about us delivering information that the client can use to ultimately run their building. We go through to aftercare. So BAM offer aftercare provisions on projects to make sure that the building is running as it should for that initial period of time after we complete the project. And then as we go through into operations and facilities management, it's making sure that we have the correct information to ultimately run that building and draw analysis from that data. You know, you may see things like digital twins. That's kind of where we're moving to as an industry. And it's about provisioning our projects to make sure that we're ultimately utilising the data that we're collating on schemes. Okay, so how BAM mobilise and provision continuity in CDEs and task management platforms. So this really is the journey that BAM have been on in the last 13 years or so with our common data environments. So initially back in 2012, it was mandated that all of our projects were using LiveLink OpenText. So that was really the CDE that all of our design teams, supply chains used to collaborate on the project. We then also used BIM 360 Field, which was predominantly to do checklists and snagging on projects, and also BIM 360 Glue. That was a tool that we used so we could view the 3D models on the iPads out on site. So in that period of time, we provisioned 523 projects. Over 8,000 organisations were contributing to those platforms with nearly 16,000 users. And then in 2020, we kind of evolved and progressed how we was using our platforms. So again, we was using LiveLink OpenText. That was more of an internal tool at this point though. And we used Autodesk BIM 360 as our common data environment that our design teams and supply chains and clients would utilize on projects. So this was using a lot more functionality. It was making sure that kind of everyone had access to the latest information. All of the kind of information that was stored on the projects was open for everybody to see and use and collaborate on. And in this period of time, from 2020 to 2024, 233 projects use those platforms with nearly 6,000 organisations, but you can see the massive increase in users to just over 26,000 users. So again, a lot of training had to be done to make sure that everybody could utilise those systems efficiently on our projects. And again, this was the start really of us starting to create kind of a data set for structured data that we could then use for analysis at a later date. In 2024, BAM created BAM Source. BAM Source is ultimately a system that incorporates Microsoft SharePoint and Autodesk Construction Cloud. Autodesk Construction Cloud is a newer version of BIM 360 essentially. So this was a full kind of CDE that incorporates the ISO 19650 process. So all internal and work in progress information is stored on SharePoint that BAM staff have access to. If that information needs to be approved, it goes through a workflow and gets pushed to Autodesk Construction Cloud. Autodesk Construction Cloud is the platform that all of our design teams, supply chains and clients use to collaborate and work together in an environment. So since we set up this platform in 2024, 62 projects have been created with 485 organisations, nearly 3,000 users using those platforms as well.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. So as Jordan suggested there, we've now got quite a large data set and big data, if you want to call it that. So we've got some challenges like most contractors with lots and lots of data. And we've been collecting it since 2012. So we've got some, when we look at the velocity, there's some examples. So data in motion, 500 hours of videos are uploaded to YouTube every minute. To put it into some context, 500 million tweets sent a day. Volume of data as well. So data at West, just an example, 6.7 million English Wikipedia articles. 260 billion images are stored on Facebook. We have issues with variance, so data in many forms. So 350 billion emails sent and received every day. By 2030, an estimated 1 trillion sensors of different types will be streaming. And then veracity, so data in doubt. So Wikipedia has 600 edits per minute. 90% of all stored data is unstructured. So we have all of those challenges with our data, as most companies do as well. But what we started to do is started to look and visualize. When we started to collect the data in 2012, we've now started to visualize and create dashboards, as most companies do. But the interesting thing, we started to see human behavior coming out of the data itself. We were looking between the lines. So for example, adoption and consistency. So we chose a safety checklist, and this was a great example where adoption had happened really well. So if we just focus on this timeline here and just examine it in a little bit more detail, we can see that actually over time, we mandated the use of this platform back in 2020, and we can see a continuous growth in adoption. So that was, for us, really good practice, really good behavior. We can see that adoption was consistent and progressive, and we can then use that data for better, more informed decisions. This was a really good example where our safety teams had really adopted a digital way of working. We then started to see other areas. We started to see things in productivity. So we started to look between the lines and started to challenge what we were seeing. So if we look at this timeline, we started to see a dip in productivity. So as we look here, we started to see, look, we mandated it in 2020. We can clearly see there was very, very slow adoption. In fact, throughout 2020 to 2021, there were very few permits produced on our platform. But actually, we started to see dips in productivity. So both at Christmas, our productivity dropped by at its peak, 50%. So we started to look at that and understand why is that? Now, in the month of December, we know that there is a close down, but is it 50% of our productivity? We're not sure. So we're starting to look at reasons why things are happening, that human behavior. So we saw that as quite disproportionate. And again, as I mentioned, there was really slow adoption on this particular functionality of the platform. So we need to look at why was permits to work so slow at picking this new way of working. We then started to look at other elements of our dashboards. So one area was overdue issues. So we started to look at non-completion of workflows. So it's really important when you have a data set that things are concluded. So again, if we look at this, we had 6,121 incomplete workflows, which for us was a concern. But actually, when you look at the behavior, a lot of the issues weren't closed out. There was no consequence. If someone half completes the task, there was no consequence of that task not being completed because they didn't understand that the completion of that task adds to a data set, allows us to make better data-driven decisions. So they didn't see the value in a completed data set. And again, the impact of that is we have inconsistent big data. We can't conclude. We need these things concluding to allow us to make those informed decisions and look at trends. There were other areas we started to look at as well. So what was the biggest value feature of our task management tool? And again, we started to look at where is the biggest use. So you can see right here on the issues, there were 132,000 issues. And this is, I think, for snagging. But this is for the whole of the business. But as we broke it down and looked at individual businesses, we can see that of the 132,000, 37,000 of those were created from the London business. But yet the Western business had only created 4,000. They're still delivering quality buildings, but we were trying to understand why we were getting huge adoption in London, but lower adoption in another part of the business doing exactly the same thing. So we could clearly see that the snagging workflow was clearly getting the most traction and the biggest value. Adoption was hit and miss. It was inconsistent across the businesses. And obviously that means that we need to make sure that when we are deploying new ways of working, we get consistency in our training so we get consistency and adoption across the business. We also started to see productivity issues. So we created a dashboard just looking at a particular issue that was raised, a form that's used right across the business and a very popular form. And we started to see and have a look at. So if you look at the box on the top left, that's a typical week on average. And we can clearly see Wednesday is our most productive day. and it drops off from Wednesday downwards. Along the bottom, we can see that repeated over the months of the year. And what we can clearly see that as we start to look at our productivity, not only are we Wednesday the most productive day, but as we look through the year, July is clearly our most productive month. So on a Wednesday in July is clearly where this business is absolutely in fifth gear. We are performing, and we need to look at the issues related to that. Is it seasonal? Is it daylight? What are the key factors that make July and a Wednesday our most productive? And can we replicate some of those features so we have a more consistent productivity line throughout the year? We even drilled in into a particular day. So we looked at what, on a typical day, on average, what were we seeing with regards to productivity? So again, we've got on the top left there, we've got a typical day, and then we've got it repeated along the bottom. So these are days per week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we can see that we've got a double peak. We could see that on a typical day, we had a peak at 10 and a peak at 2 o'clock. And on a typical day, that's our most productive time. And on the graph along the bottom, we can see that's repeated for most days. Most days there's a double peak. So we now know that at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on a Wednesday in July, we are in fifth gear. So that shows the trends purely by people producing forms. We can clearly see productivity, behavior that allows us to maybe think about what could we do to improve the environment to allow people to be more productive. So a sort of summary there of the behaviour. So value, we can see that trends allow the business to make informed decisions. And this is what we're doing now. We're using that data set to really look at what's happening on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. Adoption of the platform was inconsistent. We, as a digital team, we need to look at ways we can improve that adoption. We need consistency and adoption right across the business, in all the business on all the sites. We looked at our working days. So our teams are working really hard and for really long. When you look at those typical days started at 6 a.m. and most of the time they were finishing at 6 p.m. That's a 12-hour day. Looking at culture. So we know about culture. Change is hard and change is slow. But how can we help the business? What can we learn from typical workflows that were really adopted, like the snagging tool? That snagging tool really added value to that team, and that's why it was rapidly adopted. Analysis, so our big data set is right now, it's immature, it's new, and it's not clean. We need to do some tidying up from the legacy issues since 2012, going back to those data challenges. And the user experience, that UX, when a process works well, it's adopted fast and wholesale. So that user experience is really, we need to really consider how this is going to land if we want adoption to be consistent and adopted wholesale. So in summary, that's our slide, our deck. I hope you enjoyed the content. I'll stop sharing and hand back to Justin.
Garry, Jordan, thank you very much. A Wednesday in July it is. Okay, so when you've stopped sharing your screen, brilliant, thank you very much. George, good morning,
yes.
Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks, Garry. Thanks, Jordan. That was yeah, really insightful to hear those perspectives. I think BAM actually we may even work with them on a couple of our projects as well at the moment. So yeah, well, lovely to meet you all on the call today. As mentioned earlier, my name's George Emily. So I work with businesses globally, mainly in sort of the AEC. So we call it's architecture, engineering, and construction firms. And we sort of want to help them unify their project information, really. So to get into to why I'm talking to you today, I think as a summary, we're finding that the global technology landscape is changing at an ever increasing speed, and this is no difference in the AEC. All the firms that you guys typically work in. As I'm sure you've noticed in your own work, technology is continually to rapidly evolve and drive the AEC to become safer, cheaper, and quicker every single year. Today, there are numerous examples of how new technology is revolutionizing the AEC sector. And a couple of examples of these are artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and of course, BIM as well. It's no surprise that with everything going on in the world right now and teams working remotely or in a hybrid environment, that it's becoming ever more difficult to actually access this project information. AEC professionals, just like yourselves, rely on strong, consistent communication. This might take the form of pitches, winning clients, and of course, day-to-day communications with your colleagues. Sadly, those days are gone, or albeit maybe limited, where you can turn around to your colleague behind you and ask them for the help trying to find that email, for example. What this means for a lot of you and a lot of people we speak to is that they don't have access to the relevant information when and if they need it, and they are left often outside that communication loop. As you can imagine, this is a huge problem. With over 350 billion emails due to be sent or received daily in 2024, making email which typically makes email the most used collaboration tool across the globe, really. But ironically, it's one of those things that companies seem to manage differently, and this then creates huge risk in the future. One of those pretty obvious risks comes from project rework. And with a study that found recently that 80% of project professionals spend half their time on rework, and poor communication costs $62 million on a year on average. Reworks don't obviously waste time, but they actually can have huge costs to the business, and obviously cause mainly of communication breakdowns. So what we've done here recently is we've put together a survey which we run every single year, which aims to discover the project management and collaboration challenges that are facing businesses globally within the AECs, within architecture, engineering, and construction firms. This report aims to explore how firms manage their information and how and where they store it, but also how they go out retrieving this data when it comes to facing legal disputes. So we surveyed around 200 individual companies across the globe, with the majority of respondents coming from Europe and North America as well. So let's jump straight into the findings of the 2024 report. On the surface of it, users seem pretty happy, which is a good sign. We found that 64% of respondents are satisfied with the current collaboration solutions. But if we dig a little bit deeper into this, we see some issues, some cracks starting to form. Almost 40% of people strongly agree that securing buy-in for collaboration solutions is difficult. So sort of you go to your manager, try to introduce them that new system, but it can be quite challenging to get new systems on board. This suggests that mid-level managers and junior employees may face more challenges in adopting and using tools. On the topic of data storage and accessibility, our research also revealed that there's a shared concern among both senior management and directors regarding data storage and security, with over half of IT leaders that we spoke to expressing significant concerns about the way information is stored and shared within the organization. So what are the key issues, and what are we going to delve into today? Well, a huge sort of 67% mentioned there are too many different solutions out there that the company are using, and sharing information causes too much confusion, a bit of sort of haziness in the air. 59% of the people surveyed noted that inconsistent data storage and sharing practices are often happening in the business. And 56% found it difficult to locate the documents and data when it's needed on projects. But this doesn't just, of course, mean disconnection for organizations. In instances of non-compliance, say, data breaches or even the system failures not only incur financial losses, but also tarnish the organization's reputation and, of course, that all-important trust among the stakeholders. There is a way that the way that collaboration plays a key role in our project delivery, productivity and teamwork, and overall workplace satisfaction. In our 2023 report, we found that the email is still the most used communication tool in the industry, but more than 4/5 of respondents reported that often their project correspondence is mainly via email, and only 19%, so quite a small amount there, reported that less than half their respondents comes in via email, so quite a small amount there. So what we're seeing is with recent economic trends that are going on in the world at the moment, is mainly centered around rising inflation. And I think we're starting to see we're coming off the back end of that, but this has significantly impacted AEC's, the AEC industry globally. Whilst we're starting to see a bit more signs of stabilization, the industry continues to face challenges of increased costs, reduced profit margins, and workforce adjustment. So with so much uncertainty in the world at the moment, and so many people leaving or coming and leaving businesses, there is a strong need for organizations to start to think about their information management. The obvious question to ask is, how can you be sure that you have access to all the documents, all the correspondence, if a member of staff is to leave the business? In our recent report, there was a couple of things in the common census that came up. We found that email management is a great concern, with 67% of mentioning emails are often filed inefficiently, and there's a difficulty actually locating these emails when they need to find them. As I'm sure everyone on the webinar today has heard that sort of phrase that email is dead. From our research and discussing it with the industry, we find that these claims are broadly inaccurate. So in 2024, we found that 88% of respondents indicated that the most of their emails had actually increased over the last 12 months. And this was a stark increase from the year before. And we're sort of starting to see these trends rise year on year. A significant number of respondents, about 85%, agree that issues stem from outdated information and inefficient document filing. Additionally, the use of various tools and sharing information often leads to confusion, of course, inconsistencies, as I mentioned a second ago. For many of the firms, emails and keeping them well organized and accessible is not just consideration until things actually go wrong, until there's a lawsuit or an issue on a project. As we can see, they hold really crucial, vital information that could be the difference between winning and losing disputes. Unfortunately, we're starting to see project costs spiral out of control a little bit here. And this has led to an increase in disputes within the AEC. So our research report back in 2023 found that only 9% of people surveyed had not experienced any disputes in the last 12 months. Only 9%, so a really small amount there. And this was actually a significantly higher amount, or significantly sort of lower amount, if anything, on the previous 2 years, so beating pre-pandemic records as well. 63% of organizations reported actually experiencing a dispute in 2021. Those numbers rose to 78% in 2022, and of course, 91% in 2023. The top two causes of these disputes, I'm sure I don't have to tell anyone on the call this because you'll all probably experience at some point. The top two issues are project scope changes, but of course, chasing payments or invoice issues. These follow similar trends that we've seen in previous 2 years of research. Unfortunately for the industry, issues relating to project scope changes are gaining that momentum. Why is this? Well, what we found in a couple of the reports that we did recently that a majority, about 85% of information regarding scope changes is kept in emails. To break this down even further, 21% of scope changes, 21% of scope changes don't actually reside in any digital space whatsoever. And I've got an even more shocking statistic to share with you all. About 11%, so not a massive amount, but enough to be alarming. 11% of respondents highlighted that the only place that they keep this sort of information, this product information, is in the PM's head. And in 2020, so pre-COVID, this number was 6.2%. It's actually almost doubled over the last 2 or 3 years, which shows sort of quite an alarming increase there. With these findings, it's hardly surprising to find that most companies get themselves into hot water on the projects. And it's only when sort of information is accessible that we can start to avoid these. So we are consistently seeing that failing to make emails visible and accessible can cause massive sort of legal disputes in future years. According to the ICC statistics on the global sort of average value of disputes, we're finding that it's roughly around $65 million, US dollars that is, of a dispute, and the average length is being about 16 months. So firms can't really afford to let information and email correspondence fall through the cracks. We've heard this phrase often, the leaky bucket, negatively affecting AEC firms globally recently, and firms need to be aware of the project history they've got with the client, the subcontractors, the suppliers, the architects. They need to be aware of all of that history. Given the nature of the industry that we all operate in, firms need to guarantee that we've got visibility of this information to be able, not just sort of for project ease, but actually to make the right decision at the right time. In the best cases, poor information management just costs you money. I know it doesn't sound great, but in the best cases, it costs you money. In the worst cases, what we've seen is it actually costs lives as well. With a proper email management process in place, businesses can ensure that you have access to all project information and correspondence when you need it and if you need it. This will then reduce the cost of rework, stop project disputes in their track, but also give you time to actually earn more money for the business, because obviously that's the aim here. So this has been a bit of a brief overview in terms of the IdeaGen Mail Managers 2024 State of the AEC report. We'll be sending out a full report in the next couple of days. If you're interested, feel free to read that in a bit more detail. But what does this mean for information management? How can it help us? How can this information we gather actually help you avoid disputes going forward? Well, as I said at the start, luckily, technology is on our side. We've got various technology advancements that help us continue to improve the way we work. As I touched on earlier, AEC firms are increasingly using tech to boost efficiencies. And BIM advancements mean that team members can all be on the same page. And the use of BIM, we've seen several benefits over the AEC the last few years, like reducing waste, improved collaboration, enhanced productivity, and of course, reducing the time wasted, and overall sort of increased technology adoption as well. Improving safety across the industry provides deep insights to also the existing buildings as well. So while tech is new tech is making our lives much easier and also really boosting the industry, it's hardly surprising that it's harder than ever to access information, and it ensures allow team to follow the information management process. So we have access to a massive amount of information, both inside or outside our organization. This information is often confidential, quite sensitive. Information is typically stored in documents, correspondence, and it's only when this information is inaccessible or stored across various departments that it can become really challenging for business to operate on these projects. Information is the lifeblood of all of the project work that you work on, but it's only when it's well organized, accessible, secure, and of course updated that you actually have a beneficial tool there. But what's the solution here? Well, I think we've heard the phrase single source of truth been sort of flying around quite a bit, and I think that's what most businesses need. It's that sort of single place where all your project information and client information can be stored, where you've got a complete picture of the project that you're actually working on. A single source of truth provides better working methods and encourages more transparent communication. This is helping organizations drive changes faster without compromising that all-important quality, and it ensures that all project teams and client teams have access to the correct information when and if they need it. Managing all the project information in one place is critical to avoiding disputes and rework. And when done right, it allows the team to use their time and resources and knowledge effectively to make the right decisions at the right time. You may be thinking, how the hell are we going to get to a single source of truth? Well, the answer is tech is on our side. And the two easiest ways to create that single source of truth is by removing a manual process. It's all well and good saying, right, guys, I want all your information stored in this place. But if it's manual, if it's difficult to do, very rarely you're actually going to get that. So we're going to use tech on our side to reduce the manual process, but also then increase the visibility across the board as well. So one really obvious thing to keep in mind is your single source of truth. If it's not fully complete, it's not the truth. It's not the full story there. So what we've seen in our research report is while our firms are stringent about documents, PDF, Word, designs, that sort of thing, email is one of those things that everyone just manages differently. Everyone's got their own different process. And with the right tools and the right automation in place, project teams, without the right tools, so not without the right tools and the right automation in place, teams are typically left to their own devices. Some people will store in Outlook. Some people just manually drag and drop and waste that time manually filing the folders. But most people just leave the emails in their Outlook, or they might even delete the information if they don't see it, they need it any longer. Or in all of these instances, what we're seeing is information is trapped in silos and it's inaccessible to the wider team. So losing access to essential emails or not including them in your overall information strategy can prove to be detrimental. When emails are managed correctly, everyone in the organization has access to the right information to make the right decisions. Now, everyone, the easiest way to say it is everyone will be singing off the same hymn sheet, everyone reading the same story on the project here, and everyone knows what's going on. But it also removes the responsibility for storing and managing data from one person to actually a department. It's a kind of collective effort here. So it's obvious it's time to avoid these email headaches. I think at one stage in your lifetime, most people on the call have probably said a phrase like this in terms of, this isn't what we agreed. When did you tell us this? Or so-and-so's left the company. I'm coming into this a little bit cold here. So it's time to sort of actually avoid these headaches. Now, some of the benefits of centralized information include your data being more discoverable, eliminating human error through automated workflows, establishing version control, reducing the amount of time being wasted searching and sort of recreating lost documents. There's just a couple of points on the slide here. And this is where IdeaGen Mail Manager comes in. Well, why am I talking to you today? Well, as I'm sure everyone on the call has probably heard at some point of a company called Arup. If you haven't, here's a couple of the projects that you've probably heard of that they're working on over the last few years or so. The reason why I bring up Arup is because they actually created this system called Mail Manager. They created us about 10, 15 years ago, purely because of an internal need. They weren't thinking about sort of supplying it to other people. They were thinking of their own internal needs. Now, they had a process in place of manually dragging and dropping into that single source of truth. They wanted sort of people to file into the CDE or public folders. No one was doing it. It was a really manual process, and what left them with is two types of people in the business. There were people who were manually dragging and dropping, and it was wasting a lot of admin hours in doing these tasks. But what they were also finding is that most people just weren't doing anything. Information then was locked in their inboxes and really difficult to find later on down the line. Now, think of those instances we mentioned earlier with disputes or someone leaving the business. With this way of working that Arup were doing, it was becoming increasingly challenging and a cost to the business. So initially, they went to market, and like all of us, they wanted the simple option. They tried to find something they could just pluck off the shelf, plug into their system, and get going. Funny enough, couldn't find that. So they went the other end of the spectrum and developed their own system themselves. And that's probably one of the best things that I love about Mail Managers. It's designed and developed for a particular industry, so we know exactly how to help the AEC, but also it's based off a need, and it's based off someone's own challenges, which makes us really adaptable to the various companies we speak to. Who is it we speak to? Well, I've just included a slide here, a couple of our customers that we sort of work with. So Gensler, they've been a fantastic customer of ours for the last few years now. Now, they did a case study with us about a couple of years ago, and they found themselves, and without our help, they found that it was Mail Manager saved them about 5 hours per user per week on administrative filing and manual of email management. So a massive amount of time saving here before we even get into any potential dispute cost. Ramble's a really similar case study. They found it was saving them 3 hours per user per week compared to their manual dragging and dropping process. But also, it's not just filing emails, searching for them as well was saving a lot of time as well. And for WSP, their whole process here of trying to solve something for Mail Manager was making information more accessible. Trying to avoid those disputes over the 10 years they've used Mail Manager has been really crucial for them in saving money in the future. So what are we trying to solve here? Now, these are the typical issues that we hear from the people we work with. So there often is a risk of losing sensitive information. Now, most on the call will be working in a company where IT can always find the emails, and I agree with that. What we mean by risk of losing sensitive information is the keys are somewhere in the house. I need to leave the house. The keys are somewhere in the house. I need to urgently find them, but I don't know where they are. They should be in the key bowl, but they're not. They're stuck on the back of the sofa. They're somewhere I can't find them. So you know they're within inside a silo, but it's difficult to find and difficult to dig out. Now, of course, with any process, you're going to get a lot of manual dragging and dropping, and that's where time gets wasted. Now, if you're an architect or an engineer or consultant, you're working on billable hours. Now, those manual hours you're just spending filing emails is quite simply wasted. So that's what we want to try and do, is cut down here. Now, lack of control means a number of different things to different people. What I mean typically by lack of control is you put in place a process as a business, and that process is people dragging and dropping into the CDE, but no one does it. So your process you're putting in place, you've got no control over what people do, and that typically will lead to the last one, is information will just stay in people's inboxes, gathering dust, difficult to find. They leave the business, there's no easy record. If they win, someone describes them on a call the other day, they said, if my colleague here wins the lottery tomorrow and wins 50 million quid, how, and he leaves the business the next day, how do we make sure we can take over his project work? Is that sort of thing we're trying to solve here. And this is what we're going to give. This is what we're going to give our clients. How do we help them? Well, it's easy retrieval of documents and emails. It's finding any of this information in seconds, but actually making sure you can find it. But of course, increasing that productivity and making it more efficient when it comes to saving this information. And then lastly, comes back to that single source of truth, making sure you've got that one place, that one central facility to be able to go back and find this information. Now, I haven't just been talking to you today to sort of skirt around the system. What does that actually do? What I've done is prepared a live demonstration to show you how Mail Manager works. Now, these demonstrations can be a bit brief and a brief overview. So if there's any questions at all, pop them in the chat. We'll try and get them answered at the end. If not, we'll go into, get in touch with us and we can organize a more personal demonstration for your business. So let me just share my screen here. Hopefully, what you can see here is my Outlook. What you'll see here at first glance is my Outlook won't look too dissimilar to yours. So Mail Manager just adds these set of buttons here to your taskbar. So not a big bulky plugin that takes forever to implement. This is set up in about an hour and a half. Main aim of Mail Manager is to get emails fired out of your Outlook and into those project folders on your system. We're not going to host any information at all. We're filing emails directly into your project folders that are already there, which makes this quick and easy to set up. What we'll also then do is provide a really detailed search tool where you can go back and find this information. Now, when it comes to filing the emails, I'll take this one here from Ben. I'm going to say there is an issue with flooding. Please try and spell something right. Please update the client. So an important email here that may need to be recalled back if there was an issue with snagging or there was an issue with the what project scope had been agreed. So we need to make sure we capture this. Now, most of these emails aren't captured. Now, with Mail Manager, the way we get these emails saved is as soon as you click send, what you're greeted straight away here is with this prompt. Now, this prompt in the first part will tell you and others to file away the email, so it gets everyone filing consistently. So does its job at trying to remove that sort of inconsistency of people saving emails. What it will also do is provide you with a semi-automated tool that predicts and learns your locations based on keywords and past filing habits. So you can see it suggested Gensler project here, and it knows that because Gensler's written the email, but it's not crucial. Project names don't need to be there. It will also understand your past filing habits as well. So you'll select a folder, hit send and file. That then will send the email out to Ben, and most importantly, that will then file away both sent and received copies directly into your project folder on your system. And that could be SharePoint, could be Procore, Viewpoint, File Server, could be any of those systems. Once you file an email, you get a nice clear orange tag that tells that email's been filed away. And that then comes to when it comes to searching for it. So there you've got a copy in your Outlook, which you can delete if you wanted to. So you can delete someone's Outlook if they've finished the business, but also you can then search for this information as well. So we'll hit this search button here. I've actually already got that open in my Outlook here. So what we've got here is a search tool. Now I can search across all of the emails that are in folders that I have access to. So I won't be able to dive into folders that I don't have access to, like, for example, HR folders or finance folders. Won't be able to look into those. But where this search comes in really helpful is having really quick overviews of projects. So let's give you an example. Let's say I'm looking for an email on the Cap West project that my colleague Henry sent regarding a project plan. Now, I can go straight into a project folder here being Cap West. Now that's all of the emails in the project there. I'm going to say yes to attachments being on an email. So now we're down to 6, but I knew the email was from Henry. So I'll put in Henry's name there. And that straight away has given me the plan straight away there. And as you can see from this email, I'm not involved in it. But within one click, will then give us this facility to open it up and view it in a version that we can now reply to as well. Just to remove a couple of these filters here, let's say I'm looking for something regarding a keyword. Let's say I knew I wanted to put in plan here. I'll put in plan, and that then brings up all of the emails that says that word in it. So we're going to go beyond searching for the subject line, because I think can't get my words out of my mouth today. So one thing Eric tried the aim of this system was to reduce the reliance on users to file or remember to do something. So a lot of the businesses we speak to require users to include a naming convention on the email. Good idea on paper, but people typically don't do it. So that's why with Mail Manager, we'll go beyond searching the subject line, allow you to search the contents, name of attachments, anything like that as well. So you can retrieve this information at any moment and know that you've got a really good database of all the information that's been sent or received in the business. That is it for the demonstration here today, guys. If there's any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch, put your questions into the chat and we'll go through those now. But it's been great to show you all the system. Go on our website and yeah, book a demo with us and we can give you a specific example for your company. But yeah, thank you. I'll hand back over to you, Justin.
Thanks, George. Okay, Gary and Jordan, if you want to jump back onto the virtual stage and we'll jump into the Q&A. So question for Gary and Jordan, how you mentioned clip just your big data set, how will you clean it up?
I suppose the first thing we are doing is teaching our people how best to use the systems to input the data. So what we've found historically is everyone kind of does it their own way. In terms of, snagging, for example, kind of what snag they'll use on the system and how they'll input that data and when they do that. What we're going through is kind of a process of, with rolling out Autodesk Construction Cloud in our projects, it's given us the opportunity to reinvest in training and make sure that all our site teams are up to speed with how the system works. And as part of that, we're obviously then rolling out, well, how is best practice to populate that data with the intention of then getting insights from that data afterwards. Okay.
And how has BAM senior management reacted to your findings so far? Assuming you presented them back, of course.
Yeah, so clearly of interest. This is something that we've not seen before. The data set is, as a whole, is the first time it's properly been visualized, and we're starting to drill into the things that we're seeing. So we're starting to share those insights with the senior leadership team to get their thoughts on how do we best look at some of the behaviors, and how do we look at better ways we can improve our, whether that be productivity or whether that be digital ways of working. So to answer your question, is we are still in discussion with the senior leadership team about what do we do next with this valuable insight.
Right, which I think probably answers the next question, which what are BAM's next steps in learning from your analysis?
Exactly that. So we are starting to really drill into and understand what we're seeing and share that with the senior leadership team so we can start to make informed decisions about possibly different ways of working going forward. Yeah.
Have you conducted any interviews with your teams about their productivity, their engagement with your systems? As such, yours is a quantitative analysis at the moment, but so would you think about face-to-face interviews to understand on a more qualitative basis?
Yeah, and that might be something we do as part of next steps, and we've not done that as yet. We've purely looked at a very large data set, and we've obviously seen these behavioural trends, so that may be part of our next steps.
Yeah, okay. Some questions for George. How does Mail Manager manage permissions and confidential emails and their attachments?
Yeah, good question. So the permissions that the search gets and the ability to file, so the read write permissions, are all dictated from the folder itself. So if you don't have access to a folder on SharePoint or the project itself, you won't be able to access the search with the search tool. So it's all dictated, yeah, from the location itself.
Okay. And if you took on Mail Manager today, does it only work on the emails that come in subsequent, or can you feed in historic emails into the system?
Definitely, yeah. So we can absolutely go back and file historic emails. It's worth mentioning we sort of tend to shy away from the phrase of being a batch filer, because we're sort of a bulk upload, but we can absolutely go through and file historic emails. We'll give you the tools to help out with that process. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And what happens with duplicate emails?
Yeah, good question. I think duplicate emails create two challenges. Obviously, there's a lot of space that gets taken up, but I think even searching for emails creates a lot of issues when you've got a lot of the same copy. So with Mail Manager, very simple. We don't duplicate any emails whatsoever. So it saves about a third on space and means searching for it's a lot easier as well.
Okay. Back to Garry and Jordan. Does the data set align with the project program and peak when the program delivery peaks? Has this been assessed, or is this part of your deep dive to be undertaken?
This is looking at the whole. So this is looking at every project within BAM Construction. So it doesn't align with one particular program. This is the whole business. So that data set covers hundreds and hundreds of projects.
Okay. All right. And scrolling through, so we've done that one, and probably far too early, but we'll throw this question out. Any thoughts on how BAM can create or recreate a Wednesday in July week of every month?
If we could do that, we'd be so much more productive. And it could be that, as we look at it, it could be light levels. It's summer, it's warmer, we've got more light, people are happier. There's a number of factors in there. We probably need to have a good look at that. And if we could replicate and improve maybe lighting levels, and that might be something that we maybe trial to improve lighting levels throughout the autumn and the winter periods, would that have an impact on the productivity of a site? It may do, I don't know. So we probably need, again, to continue to look at what we're seeing and better understand it, and then probably take action from it.
And there's a question about sort of the relationship with academia, but have you presented your findings to any construction project management academics yet, or
not as yet? No.
Any intention or desire
possibly,
to do that?
Yeah. So we have been approached by some academic institutes to come and talk to them. So yeah, there may be opportunities for us to do that as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So George, how does Mail Manager file emails? Is it the subject title that's important?
No. Yeah, going back to Arab story, that they didn't want users to rely on an accurate subject title. It definitely helps to know where to file to if you've got a project name, but it's not crucial. So we'll look at the project name or the subject line, the contents of the email, so project names or numbers in the subject or the contents. But we'll also look at the past filing habits. So if let's say I always send Justin an email and constantly file it to the Cap West project folder, every email that I get to and from Justin, it's going to start to pick up that that's where I typically like to file emails to. Even if it doesn't say Cap West on the email, it will pick up those filing trends. So yeah, a couple of easy ways to make sure we capture the information for the right project.
Is Mail Manager only available to big construction companies, or can SMEs also make use of it? Someone asks.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got a really good split at the moment of about 50-50 between SMEs and big enterprise firms. So whilst we've got big clients like Skanska, Ramboll, and WSP who use Mail Manager, it's absolutely relevant to smaller firms as well. So yeah, get in touch and we can sort of give you a demonstration. We've also got loads of clients across the UK, so we'll probably can find someone for you to speak to locally who's using the system, who's a similar size to you.
Yeah, and Garry and Jordan, can you talk about UX? Because you highlighted the user experience with different systems, as a potential issue for adoption, potential for use. and the impact that has on your data set?
Well, we know that when something is easily a user-friendly platform that makes the person using it adds value to their day, it clearly gets adopted quickly. So we need to be really mindful that digital ways of working need to be easy to use, sympathetic to the user and their probably digital competency. But going forward, the easier a platform is to use, as we know, the easier it is for adoption. Right now, no one has got, most people have got smartphones. No one's got an instruction manual for a smartphone. We intuitively learn how to use it, and that intuitiveness is important with platforms that we deploy because it only promotes good adoption. But we've seen that. You've seen that in the data set. We've seen one business wholesale adopt a way of working and another not. We need to find out why wasn't adopted. What did we do that stopped that wholesale adoption? And it could be training. And it could be we're just wedded to the way that we currently work and we're happy with that. So there's a number of factors in there. And it comes back to culture and comes back to change.
Yeah. Okay. George Catriona asks, how does the mail application deal with multiple CCS?
Yeah, so I saw this. I'm not too familiar what you mean by CCS. I've not come across that acronym. I presume it's saying multiple sort of platforms perhaps that you're filing into. The good thing about Mail Manager is you can file into SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, file servers all at the same time. So we're all about sort of providing a unified place for accessing information. So let's say you've got historical projects on a file server, but live ones on the SharePoint. We can all have it surface in that Mail Manager search. It doesn't matter where the information is stored. The process is going to be exactly the same, and we can set up hybrid environments for you to work with multiple platforms.
Okay, alrighty. I'm conscious of the time, so it is time to wrap up the webinar. So I'll just move to the final slide. Reminder to the audience that the webinar has been recorded, so you can watch it again or share the video with peers and colleagues via the original registration page, probably from tomorrow morning, maybe this afternoon, but probably tomorrow morning. For more on BAM, you can go to bam.co.uk. For more on IdeaGen Mail Manager, you can go to mailmanager.com. It simply remains for me to say thank you to IdeaGen Mail Manager for sponsoring this webinar. And thank you very much to Gary, Jordan and George for your time and input this morning. And thank you, the audience, for tuning in. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.